Hi guys, back once again talking about Star Trek Discovery. Wow, thinking about how long we've been anticipating this series and the fact that it's come and gone is just like, where did the time go? So yeah, it's come and gone really, really quick. And it's been met with varying degrees of fan reactions, from this is brilliant to this is the worst thing I've ever seen. So what I thought I'd do is I'd do a list now that it's over. I'll do a list of 5 things I think Star Trek Discovery done really, really well. So I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's get on with the list. Now, the list is not in any particular order. It's just a list of 5 things. So it's not ranked or anything like that. It's just a list of 5 things I think Star Trek Discovery has done really, really well. So in at number 5, I've got restarting Star Trek. And I think it's done a really, really good job of it. Now, some people might disagree with that, but they probably don't like the show anyway. But honestly, selling Star Trek to Star Trek fans is not as easy as it sounds. For every Star Trek fan that you offer something new to, one will think it's brilliant and one will think it's terrible. Honestly, as Star Trek fans, we're a finicky bunch. A real finicky bunch, there comes a point whereby you offer a Star Trek fan, new Star Trek, and they'll come out of the shadows and go, "What be this? It be new and different. I don't like change," and then they'll drift off back into the shadows. Honestly, it's really, really difficult to restart the show. But I think they've done a great job, because they give us, first of all, they set it into an era that they think we're familiar with, or we think we're familiar with, and that's the catch, is that we as Star Trek fans think that we are familiar with this era, and we're not. We've had a keyhole view of this entire era as seen from the point of view of the Enterprise, and we know nothing else about this. Really, not canonically anyway. So the fact that they offer us this new show with this ship set in a different part of space, having a whole different adventure, it's understandable why certain Star Trek fans who think that they know what this entire era is about are going, no, that's not right, because it doesn't mesh with what they think should happen. So and others who are more open to it are suddenly going, I like this. This is new. I give me more. So, and the other problem with that then is obviously that you're not just selling Star Trek to Star Trek fans. You've got to do what's best for the production, and you've got to sort of entice new fans in. And the only way to do that is literally to do what's best for the story, not worry a little too much about whether or not, because McCoy said this in one episode or because Cisco said this in another episode, that you can't possibly do this. That you do what's best for the story and you do what's best for the production, and you make it as broad of an appeal as possible so that you do entice in new Star Trek fans. And I think a lot of Star Trek fans forget, people go, "Oh, I love The Next Generation." Star Trek fans didn't. People forget this. Star Trek fans for Series 1 and Series 2 of Star Trek absolutely slammed the show. They absolutely did. Season 1 and Season 2 of The Next Generation, it didn't really start finding its Trek audience until about Season 3, and then it took Best of Both Worlds Part 1 and Part 2 to really, cement it with the fans. And it didn't really reach its peak of popularity until Season 5 and Season 6. So, selling Star Trek to Star Trek fans, this show had a much bigger goal and a much broader goal than just simply doing that, and I think it achieved it. We haven't had Star Trek on screen for a long time, and I think this show done a fantastic job of kicking off a new era of TV Star Trek. So that's number 5. Number 4, I've got Real World, and I've put this on the list because I think Star Trek Discovery done a fantastic job of giving us things as an audience that we are familiar with, and giving us things that have grounded the show, because it needed that basis to sort of ground the show out and just create a reality, because you have to remember that when they created the show, that everything was built. Everything was built from the ground up, and everything was manufactured in studio, and all that. But even so, they managed to integrate things into the show that we as an audience could be familiar with, such as snacks, food, like the Chinese fortune cookies and so on. The fact that it used music that we all know. The fact that it didn't try to go, oh no, this is a 22nd century musician, and bring in some sort of weird sounds like they did in the 70s. Well, like you used to get in sort of the old Buck Rogers shows, where it's like, oh, this is a new rock band from the 24th century, and listen to this. And instead of doing that, they actually just used real world music. And the other thing that they did was integrate real world science into the show as well. So it had a very good sort of spine of real world things that it could build upon. That and again, with the real world science as well, you're not just talking about technobabble. I mean, there was a bit of technobabble going on in the show, but for what they were doing with the mycelial network, it was built upon real world, real existing science, and it adds credibility to the show. So that's my number 4. Number 3, I've got down as the Mirror Universe, because I really like what they did with the Mirror Universe here. We've seen the Mirror Universe a couple of times in the original series, Mirror Mirror, in Deep Space Nine, so Enterprise as well, in A Mirror Darkly, not leaving that one out. But really, I think what this series of episodes did inside the Mirror Universe was to show how the Terran Empire functions more than anything else. I really like the fact that it wasn't just you have to kill your way to the top. That there is a bit more going on. And to me, I guess what I was seeing from this version of the Mirror Universe was something that's sort of analogous to how we see things as an outsider, how we see North Korea and how that's run. So it's kind of, I'm not saying it was a metaphor for North Korea, but that's sort of, because we obviously, we don't live in North Korea, we don't really know how it's run. We've got a good idea, I think, but we obviously, there are things that we get wrong. But I think that's sort of how, what sort of the Mirror Universe was doing there. Showing that it can function, even though it's not a place that you'd want to live, it's not a place that you'd want to be, but it can work. Also, I liked the outfits for the Terran Empire, and I just loved the Emperor's ship. That was such a overboard, bombastic, inflated design. It looked nothing like any sort of Federation ship that you've ever seen. It was just absurd and over the top, and wonderful at it as well. I just really loved the Emperor's ship. I thought it was fantastic, and I liked the fact that she even had the sword as well. I thought that was really good, because obviously, when you see the symbol for the Mirror Universe, it's usually the planet with the sword through it, and why shouldn't she have the sword? Why not? What the hell? Yeah, and I thought that it looked really, really well. Looked really good, I should say. Number 2, the costumes. I thought the costumes for this show worked very, very well. And for me, personally, it's been a long time since we've seen costumes like this, of this sort of caliber for the show. Because as much as I love The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, it's really been since Star Trek 6 since the last time they looked like uniforms. They've looked like pajamas and they look like boiler suits, but this is really the first time since then that they really look like uniforms. And I like them. I can't fault them. They can build on this design now so that they can explore the creativity of these uniforms a little bit further, like they did in the movies, where you had engineering uniforms and medical uniforms and cadet uniforms and security uniforms and officer uniforms. So they can build on this now, so that they can take it a little bit further, so that not everybody we're just wearing blue. And I know they did alter between gold and silver and so on down the sides, but I think they can take it a bit further and change the stylization just a little bit. But it's a good basis to build off the back of. I like the designs of the uniforms. I think they look really good. I think they look really smart and very sharp. And yeah, that's why I've got it on my number 2. Number 1, I've got the cast, because I think the cast deserve a lot of credit for what went on the show. I'm going to give the pilot a break because, to be honest, I wasn't that keen on the pilot. I think I give it a break because everybody was still finding their feet and still trying to sort of work out who and what their character was. We ended up with some bad acting in the pilot and some really garbage moments here or there. So I give the pilot a break. It gets a break purely because it's just sort of this one-off thing. By the time we get into the series though, the cast members really settle down. They all sort of come together. There's back and forth banter. And there's a certain chemistry that's been built throughout the cast, throughout the show. And in the latter half of the season, you really feel that they have started really bonding together, and they are sort of working off each other's, inflections. So that one character will say something and they start bouncing off each other. I think they come together and they put over the cast, the characters very, very well. So that's my number 1, and like I said, this list isn't in any particular order. I like all these things, but yeah, the cast, I think, done a bang up job of putting these stories over and making these characters very, very real. So anyway, that's the list of 5 things that I think Star Trek Discovery done really, really well. What do you think of Star Trek Discovery? What do you think of the show? What would you say it done really, really well? And I'm going to leave that there and say, if you've enjoyed this video, feel free to like and comment on this video, subscribe to this channel, or go over and join me on Google+, or indeed on Twitter. But until next time, I'll see you later, guys.